then it's great to understand what the emotional impact of colour has in your living environment.
Why is it so important? Okay, Lana, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
We spoke towards the end of last year, actually, and I was quite interested to hear that you're a colour coach, a life coach and a colour coach. And people were thinking, what is that and what's it all about? But we was talking about how important it is for people to consider colour when renovating their home, and the colours they choose and everything else. So I'm not going to say any more about it, but if you can just introduce yourself.
Absolutely.
And tell us, why is it so important?
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, the reason that it's so important and why I moved into becoming a colour coach is the emotion that is associated with colour. And when I first started life coaching, one of the things that helped me when I was going through a particularly significant health crisis about 6 or 7 years ago was I came across this particular colour system, and a friend of mine said, come along, there's a workshop going on, it's about colour, you like colour because you do a lot of scrapbooking and DIY and you tend to put colours together, so why don't you come along? And I did, and I just totally fell in love with the fact that colour will help us express our emotional state in a way that sometimes we just can't articulate. So, and we see it in our language already, you know, red with rage, or red rag to a bull, feeling a bit blue, green envy. You know, these are all terms that we already have in our language. And I just got so mesmerized by the colour and thought, wow, you know, what a fantastic way of shortcutting somebody's emotional state by saying, well, what's the first colour that comes to mind? What colour are you feeling at the moment? And so that's what started me on the path of being a colour coach. And of course, when that began, it then moved into logo design and website design and colour, because obviously customers and clients are moving to whatever website they're looking at. There's an emotional response. And then obviously moving quite naturally into home improvement, renovation, home decor. So although I'm not a home decorator in the traditional sense, certainly when it comes to looking at what emotions are being expressed, or what would somebody like to enhance emotionally or suppress emotionally in particular parts of their home, then I can advise with the types of colours and colour schemes that work best, that help you either create a relaxing environment, help you create a social environment, help you create a balanced, tranquil space, and also what colours to put where you've got parts of your home which are kind of very busy, hallways, landings, you know, when people are running up and down the stairs. And it then becomes, you know, important, particularly if you're then looking at selling your property, or, you know, finding a way to enhance your space, then it's great to understand what the emotional impact of colour has in your living environment.
It's actually good that you mentioned about the sellability of your home, the appealability to someone, and just watching out for that. So I'm sure there's people out there that have thought that, why is my home not selling? They've had many people over, and it might not just, they can't put their finger on it, but maybe it could be about, you know, what kind of colours they have on the walls, and anywhere, to be honest with you, the colour of the furniture, I guess, and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's interestingly, this year's colour of the year for Pantone is the colour coral. So if you imagine living coral, it's this beautiful sort of pinky, yellowy. In fact, and I'm not sure if your listeners will obviously see this, but I've got an example, because we're doing some of this on video.
Okay.
We've got this beautiful sort of coral colour. And, you know, this emotionally is around abundance, because you've got a combination of yellow and pink. So you've got unconditional love, you've got abundance, you've got joyfulness, you've got fun. So it's a lovely colour, particularly this year as being the official colour to use in, you know, accessories or accent walls, or, you know, a little bit goes a long way. You don't have to paint your whole room in the same colour, but you can bring aspects in, which would be really lush.
Do you think people go too far with colour sometimes?
I would actually say, as somebody who loves colour, no.
Okay.
But I do feel that if you don't have an understanding of the colour basic, you can perhaps drown your room in, say, a single colour, which when you're faced with this almost a solid block of colour, it just becomes too overwhelming. So I do feel we're moving, because we've had quite a lot of neutrals in the last few years, and grey, soft greys, soft grey white tones last year, which look very clean. But as a colour person who loves colour, it's just a bit too grey and uniform and boxy for me. So bring out as much colour as possible, but understand your basics so that you're not choose. What normally happens is if you choose something that's fairly neutral on your walls, and either choose one wall as your accent colour or keep all your walls neutral, but bring in your colours through your furniture, your sofa, your cushions, your accessories, and pull things together more in that way. And I think the advantage of doing that then is when you want to change your colour schemes, if you're somebody who likes to change colours fairly frequently, it's far easier to change your accessories than it is to keep painting walls over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, you can test it that way as well in your home. So give us some more facts and statistics that our listeners can benefit from in terms of colour.
Well, I mean, there's quite a lot of research on colour that's come through in recent years. Quite a lot of prisons and hospitals, there's been quite a lot of research on colour in more communal environment. There was a study some years ago around the impact of a place somewhere in Scotland where they changed the outside streetlight colours to a blue light. And they found that as a result of doing that alone, it reduced crime in that area. It particularly reduced the volume of violent crime. Now, blue as a colour emotion is very much about calm, peaceful, very sort of what we call a fluid colour, because it often relates to the unconscious, connects to water, and we relate water to our unconscious desires and thoughts and feelings. In terms of prisons, some studies in Scandinavia have shown that a particular shade of pink can actually reduce the level of aggression in inmates. Mm-hmm. So although there hasn't been a huge amount of, if you like, the scientific research, mm-hmm. it's a growing area. And I think certainly there's been a considerable acknowledgement that colour has a huge impact on our emotional state. You've only got to look at teenagers in many respects who like black. They love to go through the black colour phase. My son is going through it at the moment and wants to paint all 4 walls and the ceiling black, which is just not going to happen. There's part of me from an emotion thinking, oh, no, that's really interesting. Are you going through the dark night of the soul? Are you having an existential crisis? Are you on one level? But also there's a sense of, oh, you're trying to be a bit more mysterious, or you're trying to be a little bit more sophisticated. So you've got mm-hmm. positive and negative attributes to colour. Would I let him have a completely black room? Absolutely not, because there's no way I'm going to try and paint over it afterwards. But certainly encouraging him to express himself, his identity through colour is, well, yes, you can have black accents. And have you thought about putting grey on the walls rather than completely black? So, but that's about him and him being in that age of wanting to become an independent person in his own right, stamping his identity on things, expressing himself, having more sense of more power, being a little bit more mysterious, all of which are positive attributes of the colour black. Sophistication, etc. So I find it very fascinating, and I love going into people's homes to see what colours they are drawn to. And another way of looking at how people utilize colour in their living space is also have a look at the wardrobe and see what colours they have in their clothing, but also what colours are missing, because that will give you an awful lot of information as well around areas of emotional difficulty.
Mm.
So if you go into a house which is completely magnolia, you know, there's no sense of personality. There's a lot of hiding behind things, you know, there's no sense of who this person is. Magnolias are very bland, neutral, uniform, almost mirror. Stay away from me. I don't want you to know anything about me and my personality, which is interesting because most estate agents used to tell you years ago, paint your house completely magnolia, as if it's a blank canvas for somebody else to come in and impart their personality.
Yeah, so I mean, like if someone was wanting to buy a house, they'd go in there. If they saw elements of color, then it's telling a story. It's telling you that you're possibly purchasing this home from someone that's got confidence and more attributes to them as well. Like that they're fun. That the house has been fun to live in. So it means more encouraging. Okay.
Absolutely. I think the only difficulty with colour, I mean, I would always say go for colour because it's a statement. I think to get around, you'll always have some estate agents which will say to you, oh, we'll neutralise it because, you know, some people don't like the colour blue or some people don't like the colour purple. But if you've done it in a tasteful way, you can have any colour you like in there. Because it's a reflection of you and your personality, and it's also an extension of your home. Is an extension of yourself. What you have in your home is an outer reflection of what's going on internally anyway. So the biggest issue really is actually not the colour on the walls or on the accessories, it's how much clutter you've got. So if you've got rid of all your clutter and you've got space where people can see, and you've got ornaments or accessories that you have few of, but you can see that they're appreciated, then it doesn't really matter what colour you've got on the walls. Because if you've dealt with your clutter, then you've got a nice area of flow around your property. And people will go with the emotional feeling and experience of it, of which colour will assist on the emotional front. But when somebody steps over the threshold, it's actually the atmosphere they're going to pick up first and foremost. So if you've got, 30, 40 pairs of trainers and boots and shoes all kicking around in the front porch, it might say to you, yes, we're an active family, isn't it great? But to a potential buyer, it's like, blimey, why have they got so many pairs of shoes, blocking the front door? So
maybe saying things like, "There's not enough storage in this room."
Absolutely,
stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Okay, I think that's what I was getting to about maybe being cautious with color in terms of not doing too much, because, like you said, you're supposed to use it in a clever way, but more subtle.
I think when it comes to house selling, when you're in it and it's your permanent place, go wild. Do as much color. If you want, all different walls painted all different colors, and you're comfortable in that space and you're happy, then you go for it. Express your independent personality. When it comes to selling, obviously you want it balanced enough that you can attract new buyers to your property, but you still want to have enough personality and style that gives it a sense of atmosphere and ambience. So on that basis, general rule of thumb, keep the walls neutral. Either just have one wall as an accent colour, or have a large picture frame that you either utilise by putting that colour on, whether it's through wallpaper, papering that particular picture frame or a particular fireplace wall, but create a feature. Or keep everything neutral in terms of the walls and focus and pay attention to detail with the colours of your accessories, with your, artifacts, ornaments, etc. Have a good declutter. Make sure everything has its own place and reason for being in that place. And, clean, keep it clean. Make sure it's really nice and clean and shiny.
It's good that you mentioned blue earlier, and that's my favourite colour. And you related it to being calm, someone that likes water and stuff like that. I would probably say that I am calm. I think my wife would disagree, but definitely water. I always like to be by the sea if I'm going on holiday and stuff like that. And I like to swim. So I guess maybe in parts of what you're saying is true, you know, it relates to that way. Give us an example of colors that clash, like that you shouldn't put two colors together.
Well, again, you're looking at, for example, some colors which are perceived as clashing actually work really well together. They contrast. So you've got pink and purple. You get them in the right shades, or orange and pink. Get them in the right shades and they can look absolutely amazing. I think the thing to avoid really is not so much colors that clash per se, but it's the same color in like all the shades. So you might have, you know, blue walls, dark blue sofa, light blue cushions. And if you're going for that monochromatic look, it can work really well in some spaces, but in a lot of time it's actually really bland, and it can be very depressing, because the flip side of blue is somebody who's got high stress and can also be depressed. Too much of that colour just brings you down a little bit. Using black and white, you know, sometimes again you can go into a white room, and if you've got the right windows and the right lighting, it can look absolutely stunning. You can do it in another room and it looks really sterile and really cold. So I think the main thing is to work out, you know, what's the purpose of the room that you're using. What are you using it for? Is it a kitchen? Is it a sitting room?
Yeah.
You know, most of us move into homes where the rooms have already been designated. If you're in a position where you're building from scratch, then you've got a little bit more opportunity to play around with colours and colour zoning, and you know what you want it to represent. So you can see, for example, behind me I've got a pale yellow. Now this is my office space and this is where I do a lot of my work. So for me, pale yellow is about focus, concentration, and but you can also see I've got some greens and blues going on in my background, because again, when I need a break from things, I can focus on that. And I'm very much my own personal choice of colours are blues and greens and soft olive colours. So I find them very calming and relaxing. But if you looked into my sitting room, for example, it's grey, but it's a very, very dark grey, and olive, which sounds like a really odd combination.
Yeah.
How does that work? But actually they work incredibly well together. I've got dark grey in the alcoves with some spotlights, and I've got silver picture frames. And then on the fireplace wall, I've got a really, really lovely olive colour. And it goes incredibly well. But the silver is pulling both colours together, because that's my accessories and my accessories.
Yeah.
So even though at first some colours you might think, I don't think that's going to go, the quickest way to locate it is as simple as pop on Pinterest or Google, put in your colours and just see what fabrics come up or what pictures come up. And a lot of the time I think people can sort of re-energize their living space, particularly if maybe they don't want to move, but they're not comfortable in their living space and they're thinking about maybe redecorating. Quite often it might be as simple as locating an image or a picture or an ornament that you absolutely love that has aspects of colour in, and it's following that as the palette and using that in your room to revitalise your living space.
I've been noticing certain furniture companies that sell kitchens and do lots of like soft furnishings and stuff, that they're expressing colour a hell of a lot more. People are becoming more confident when they're buying a kitchen. They're not just going for the standard colour worktop of brown or grey. They're actually going for purple and yellow and stuff like that. And my company in London, we just done a kitchen. We done the whole house, but the kitchen, the client actually requested that we provide her with a kitchen that has green, dark green panels and yellow.
Right, yeah.
So what could, without, I'm hoping that they're listening in a way and hoping they're not, just in case of what you say. But could you describe maybe why they chose those colors?
Well, if I was analysing, if they came to me as a colour coach and said, right, you know, I'm feeling very dark green and yellow from an emotional level, then I look at it from two aspects. First, we look at the negative aspect of the colour to look at what's the unconscious emotion that's going round. But then we look at the positive, because obviously by the nature of them pulling that colour, they're already ready to release the unconscious belief around it and bring in the positive attributes. So dark green, so we're looking at sort of almost, are we looking at a pine colour green, a hunter's green, a very dark?
A forestry green, I would say.
Yeah, so you've got, from a negative, it's about really, really old resentment, emotional resentment, because when we go into the greens in the negative, it often connects to unacknowledged anger. Anger is normally associated with the colour red. But if it's been festering and nobody said anything and it's been shoved down into the body in such a way that it's been held, then it goes green and yucky, a bit like pus.
Okay.
It's a bit like that.
Right.
So it's about releasing old resentment. So every hurt, every little thing that's happened to somebody over their life that they've just held on to and they haven't been able to let go, but they've been building and building and building and building, that will be your very dark green. But in the positive, it's actually about release, and it's about stillness, and it's about getting back to a sense of harmony and balance, because green is very much, that's why we go out into nature. Different shades of green.
Yeah.
And when you combine it with yellow, again, yellow in the negative is about fear, overwork, overthinking, overanalysis. So you put together resentment with overthinking and overanalysis. And from an emotional level, that is, somebody has been consistently thinking about something in such a way they cannot let it go. And it's become such a block within them that they keep almost chundering and churning it over and over and over in their heads. And they just can't release it. So bringing that colour in is saying it's okay and it's safe to feel joy. It's okay and it's safe to feel confident, and it's okay and safe for you to express yourself authentically and let it go. It's the other person's responsibility how they hear that which has been expressed, but your role into yourself, your authentic self, is to express it. Okay, so when you bring those two colours together in the positive, you've got this lovely stillness, balance, harmony in the green, but you've also got this focus, you've got concentration, you've got fun, and you've got the ability to experience joy, which is the yellow in the positive. So if you've got that as a kitchen area, it will be a lovely space for socializing, because you've got fun, you've got a stability and harmony there, but you've also got fun of entertaining, socializing, you know, having a giggle, listening to people enjoying themselves. So it's actually a really lovely colour combination.
Okay, you've got me going now. I'm going to ask you another one because it's in the same home. The reason why I'm saying this is because we questioned it. Obviously, we were looking at the size of this property. We were looking at what we are being requested to do for them. And it was just a bit, I mean, we like playing with, you know, on the edge and doing daring things. But yeah, so they're a small shower room. They chose to have dark blue tiles, pretty much all over the room. So what would that resemble? Right.
Well, we know, as I mentioned, blue is around, in the negative, high stress, lack of feeling safe, a lack of feeling able to relax. But in the positive, it's about exploring the unconscious, because blue, we connect to water. Water represents the unconscious in psychoanalytical psychology terms. It's about communication, the ability to express oneself. The darker the blue, is it a navy blue? Is it an indigo blue?
No, navy.
Navy blue. So, and if you look at most of the websites, banking and legal websites, they tend to go for navy blue, because in the positive, it's about loyalty, safety, calmness, being able to make decisions in an unhurried fashion, and to be able to detach emotionally enough to make a considered opinion, a considered judgment, being able to articulate and express oneself. So if they've got a very small room with a dark blue, it's also about being able to feel safe to express one's unconscious emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a small space. So it's very, as you were saying it to me, what it sounded to me was quite womb-like. So it's quite safe, nurturing, peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about enjoying the experience rather than rushing in and rushing out again, but taking one's time within that experience. So I'd be interested to hear what, if the family who are in that home are listening, whether any of that does actually resonate with their choices of colour in their home.
Yeah. No, I'm going to send them the link anyway. So let's see what they say. I'm a bit nervous, but we'll see what they say. Okay, so for our listeners, can you give us a few do's and don'ts in general?
Okay.
About their home. Yeah.
Okay. So if you are staying in your home, do not be afraid of using colour. Do use colour to express your own personalities. And I think the main thing is that it doesn't actually matter what other people think about your colour scheme. If it works for you, then use it, because you're gaining something emotionally from something that you're enjoying, that you're putting together, that you're creating. So I'd say don't worry about following certain rules of colour. I think sometimes there's a lot of emphasis and pressure on making sure that you've got a harmonic balance between different shades and all the rest of it. And I would say if you're not somebody that's tried using colour before, just be a bit brave and go and experiment. If you're finding you're lacking confidence around a kind of colour scheme or a palette, there is so much that you can go. You just type in colour palettes on Google, green colour palettes, or Pinterest, and you'll see that people have already created these stunning different colour palette schemes. And we're so lucky this day and age where you can go into any local hardware DIY store and they'll colour match for you. So you don't have to think hard about, you know, how you're going to get that particular shade, because they all sort that out for you. And I think the other thing is think about the purpose of the room. So obviously you want a space where, for example, like a bedroom, I wouldn't advise a completely black bedroom.
Unless you're a teenager.
It might be great for a teenager who wants to stay up gaming until silly o'clock in the morning because they've got the energy to do it. But if you're looking for restful sleep and good quality sleep, don't put black on your walls. You know, go for lovely rest, for what we call the cooler colours, so blues, lilacs, mauves, pale greens, the cooler end of the spectrum. And you know, use the brighter, warmer colours for the more social spaces. So sitting room, living room, kitchen benefit from being much warmer in colour and tone. So the oranges, the reds, those sorts of colours. And I would just, my main message would be, don't be afraid to experiment, because only you will know. The more you start playing with colour, the more you'll know what you feel works for you. And if you can balance that out with some natural colours, pebbles, rocks, wood, we've got so many different lovely textures. So try and make it a sensory experience as well as a colour experience, so that you're capturing your mood, your emotion. Your home should be where you feel you're safe, you're secure, you're happy, you're content. You know, so create your home to reflect that for you, so that at the end of a working day where, you know, you might have been struggling to get through the commute and, you know, high stress, to be able to come home to a space which feels warm and welcoming will help your emotional state just really come back down into balance.
Brilliant. Okay, that's very nice. Lana, I'm pretty sure that our listeners can benefit from speaking with you, maybe messaging you. Are they able to do that? Like, where can they find you?
Right, they can go over to my website, which is I think mentioned to you, James, is being rebranded and going under construction, but it's still live. So you can contact me by going to lana@lanamorris.com, and that will still come through.
Okay.
And use the contact form on the website. You can probably see me more actively on Facebook. So you can go to Lana Morris, the colour coach and life coach, and just drop me a message on Facebook. I'm on WhatsApp and I'm on Skype. The only difference with Skype is I think I use because it was a Skype that I set up years and years ago. I think it's Spiritual Stream 1.
Okay.
Is the name. That's the only difference with that, because it's an old account.
Brilliant. Okay. Good. Okay. Listen, it was really, really nice to have you on. And this will be going on our podcast on the audio version, but we will also be putting it onto our YouTube as well. So you can put it on your website, and we will post the link out as well. So people that want to actually see you and understand it a little bit more, then you can go to our YouTube channel. So that would be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Been an absolute pleasure. And it's great to talk colour.
I'm pretty sure that it's going to be very helpful. It was really good to have you on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
No problem.
So much.